I want you to get paid what you're worth. I want you to have a paycheck that you are super, super proud of, that you walk out of work and you think, yes, I am being paid for my knowledge, for my expertise, for my ability to take great care of these patients, and I feel great about that. And that is a really good feeling. Welcome to The PA is In, the show created by PAs for PAs, where codependency with your supervising physician is a thing of the past, optimal team practice is the future, and physician associate has taken the place of physician assistant as the professional title of choice. I'm Tracy Bingaman, and I'm obsessed with redefining what success as a PA looks like and what it feels like. Here you'll find the mindset shifts, systems, and processes I use to escape healthcare burnout and integrate my work into my life. Work-life balance is a myth, and an integrated life where you thrive professionally, not a balancing act, is the goal here. My mission is to help you to grow into a unicorn PA who loves their job, has abundant energy, time to spare, and work-optional financial freedom. The PA is in. If you only take one sheet of paper to your next negotiation, let it be the PA Pay One Sheet. It's a tool designed to walk you through setting up the ideal outcomes, assessing the situation you are negotiating in, and it even includes a reminder of which negotiation skills you can use. Stop what you are doing. Download the one sheet, print it out, fill it out, and literally bring it to the table with you when you are negotiating next. It's designed specifically to work in healthcare settings wherever you are. You can use the PA One Sheet to get the best deal, the biggest raise, and to help your confidence walking into your next negotiation. Head to www.tracybingaman.com/one, that's ONE, to download your free copy of the PA Pay One Sheet and start prepping for your next negotiation today. It's linked in the show notes, but in case you missed it, it's at www.tracybingaman.com/ONE. Hey, and welcome back to another episode of The PA is In. Today, we're going to talk all about negotiation. We're going to unpack why this is a gap in our learning, what you need when you're headed into a negotiation. I'm going to cover what it looks like to have a negotiation consult with myself, but I also want this episode to serve as a little bit of a how-to. So even if a negotiation consult is not in your budget at this time, but you're wondering, what are some moves that you can make? What are some things that you can do planning for your next conversation with your office manager or your lead advanced practice provider? This episode is going to give you all that. I'm going to cover the most common takeaways from a negotiation consult and who would benefit most from taking a crack at a new negotiation strategy or asking for a better schedule or compensation, whatever speaks to you during this season that you're in. So without further ado, here we go. Negotiation consult takeaways, why negotiation matters, and why it is such a gap in our learning as PAs. First up, why negotiation matters. When we graduate from PA school and pass our didactic and clinical skills and we get out and we survive clinical rotations and we study our butts off and we pass the pants, we are still lacking a very important skill. I would call this a crucial skill for life and navigating interactions with patients and navigating your career and making strategic moves. And that skill is negotiating. It's been said that PA school is like drinking from a fire hose because of the sheer volume and speed of information that is being thrown at us. So that information is lots of information. It is fast, it is powerful, not unlike the water that rushes out of a fire hose on full blast. There is no way to consume it all, right? You know that having gone through. There is no way to retain every single ounce of information that is coming out of that fire hose. We simply don't have the time or the capacity as a part of that education to dive deeply into the topic of negotiation. It's not a clinical skill and it won't be tested on the pants, so it doesn't typically make the cut in the rigorous curriculum taught in most PA programs. I do think this is changing. I think we're seeing a tide of people talking about softer skills like burnout and mental fortitude and resilience and negotiation, but it's not top of mind. It's not the most common thing that you're going to cover in didactic or in clinical year. So despite it not being covered in depth as a part of our curriculum, we as PAs definitely need to know how to negotiate. Negotiations, even if they make us nervous, are essential in propelling our career and compensation forward. And I hate to be the one to tell you this, but so often interactions with patients are a negotiation, right? You're trying to settle on a plan, you're trying to get them on board and co-create that plan with you for their treatment so that they buy in, so that they're compliant, so that they take their medication, so that they make their lifestyle changes, so that they go to that specialist, so that they follow up, they refill those meds. There's so many things that we're asking patients to do in a relatively short amount of time. And honing your negotiation skills can only increase your rate of compliance and deepen that connection that you have with your patients and help them to have a relationship where they feel like you have their best interest in mind, but also where they feel like they are an active member of their treatment team. And that, as we know, increases compliance, having them bought in, having them feel like this is a plan that they are excited about, that they are bought into, even if it's something that they're not excited about having to deal with, a new diagnosis, a new problem, a complication, any of those things. Without these skills to negotiate effectively, we can be left feeling professionally unfulfilled, undercompensated, or just stuck. Like we've been in a place for a while and we want to make a move, but we're not sure what the best move is. And we're also not sure how to get the people who make the decisions about moves like that to get on board with our plan, our move, our next step in our career or our compensation. So I help PAs to gain those negotiation skills, to develop strategies that are specific and targeted for their situation so that they can earn a paycheck that they're proud of, regardless of location in the country or specialty that they work in. So typically we do this through an hour-long negotiation consult, which I will link in the show notes today. So if you're curious, like, what is this negotiation consult? Where can I find it? Head to the show notes or send me a direct message on any social media. I'm on at Mrs. Tracy Bingaman at Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn just by searching Tracy Bingaman. Send us a message and we will get you the information for the negotiation consult. So I'm going to talk a little bit more later in the episode in detail about what that negotiation consult consists of, what you can expect. I want you to leave with some things to think about, even if you never invest in negotiation consult, to sort of roll over in your mind and dissect and have top of mind as you're thinking about what's next for me and how do I make that move strategically and intentionally. And we'll wrap up with reasons to book a negotiation consult, which are also reasons to think about embarking on the next conversation, the next step, the next stage of your career and your professional development. So I'm going to answer 4 questions as a part of this episode. Number 1, what is negotiation consult like? What does it feel like? What can I expect? Number 2, what will I leave with? Number 3, what are the most common negotiation consult takeaways? So what is the plan? What is the strategy? What are people sort of leaving to embark and do? And number 4, what are the reasons to book a negotiation consult? So first, what to expect from the actual negotiation consult. So negotiation consults are hour-long meetings. We typically do them over Zoom or phone call. If you are local, I'm happy to do them in person, but that doesn't happen super frequently. Imagine a phone call with a mentor or a friend, someone who gets it, someone who's been in the trenches, who has made the mistakes and has worked to develop a framework, phrases, approaches, strategies that have helped dozens and dozens of other PAs to earn more money and work less hours. We start and cover some general background information, where you work, what type of an employer or group you work for, because that makes a big difference in the negotiation approach, and what your current work situation is. So this helps me to understand you and what your situation is and get an idea for the lay of the land, what we're dealing with, what we've asked for in the past, what the vibe is in the office, how things are. And there's a lot of that situation that helps to inform the approach that we take. So I had a negotiation consult recently where the person was in a lead position in a subspecialty medical group, and a lot of APPs had left. There had been a lot of turnover in middle management. There had been some inconsistency with office managers, regional directors, right? So that churn of turnover from administrators, and it was trickling down to affect the providers because their ability to provide really great care to their patients was compromised. So they had lost several APs back to back to back, right? Bam, bam, bam. A lot of people left. That informs the situation of this leader saying, hey, I'm about to do more work to recruit. I'm about to do more work to do this. I need administrative time to do that. And in order for you to retain me and really invest in me the way that I'm investing in this practice, I need this compensation. I need this flexibility. I need you to support me as I support this team through this tumultuous time, right? So that situation and what's happened with other people and what's going on sort of in the politics or dynamics of the practice, which I know we all like to ignore and just say, I'm just going to come in and do my job. But those things inform the approach. It gives us a little bit of an idea of what the mindset of the practice might be that we're negotiating with. And we sort of glean some of that information when we cover that background, that situation and setup. If you are going to DIY a negotiation consult, it would behoove you to write down what the situation is, how many providers, what the dynamic is, how things are going, how's morale, how is the administrative team dealing with, things, what are their challenges, so that you can kind of see the situation from their standpoint and sort of look at your current work situation with a set of fresh eyes. So once we've set the stage for how things are going and what the situation is, we discuss where you want to go, right? So this is where we are. This is where we want to be, specifically from a compensation standpoint, and we work together to determine what you want to accomplish after your negotiation. So what is the 10 out of 10 best case scenario outcome? What do you really want as a result of this conversation, of this move, of this next step in your career? So we want this specific approach to be intentional and targeted. So this negotiation and a plan fits within your goal for long-term career moves, long-term goals for what you want to be doing, specialty and setting wise. Is this someplace you want to stay? Is this someplace where you're super, super committed and you want them to be committed to you in the form of compensation? Is this someplace that you expect to be 1, 2, 5, 10 years from now? And those are all going to inform the approach that we take to that negotiation. So often, we'll talk a little bit more about outcomes later, but often the outcome that we're looking for is an increase in compensation, right? You want to be proud of your paycheck. You want to earn more. So we identify what compensation feels reasonable relative to what you're getting paid, where you live, how many years of experience, the situation and setting, how long you've been there. All of those things factor into the ask, right? So what we're going to ask for, what we're going to aim for as a result of this negotiation. So oftentimes it's money, but sometimes it's not. So I have seen this a lot more lately of people who have a little more experience and have maybe had some changes in their life outside of work. Oftentimes, when we experience those big lifestyle changes, a move, an ailing parent, a new baby, kids at different stages of life, people who go away to college, all of these things in our lives impact the way we feel about work and how much of our time and energy and focus is being spent on work. So, when it's not money, we focus on things like schedule, template, and the number of patients you're seeing a day, your workload, spreading out time so you have increased time for visits, you have more time to spend with the patients that you have. Compensation for increased duties like leadership positions, like scheduling, like orienting new providers that you may or may not already be doing. Say you started a new program and you're administrating this program at your work because you're passionate about patients with diabetes. But you did that because you really wanted to take care of those patients and you saw it slipping through the cracks and you wanted a better way to monitor and you built this program. And now there's some degree of administration, right? You got it off the ground, it's happening, but someone has to be making sure that the wheels are still turning. And you would like administrative time to be able to administrate that program that you built or that you took over or that you're in charge of. So things like this, these are the softer, less specific quality of life improvements, right? So it's not more money. It's not bigger dollars in your direct deposit. It's not a bonus. It is an improvement of your life and what's happening at work, right? So this means you're less stressed going in. You spend less hours at the office. You have more time with patients. You don't take charting home. These are the things that trickle down into your life and make it feel more sustainable to stay where you are. This is a commonly missed piece when we think about negotiation. When we think about negotiation, we think about salary, right? We think about cost of living increase. We think about a retention bonus. We think about a sign-on bonus. We think about making more money because we're the leader and being compensated for that. We think about years of experience reflecting into dollars in our paycheck. But these softer things, these lifestyle improvements matter as much, if not more, depending on your values. So, as a part of this negotiation consult, we will get into what matters most to you during this season. Is it the dollars in your paycheck? Are you really grinding to make sure that you have abundance and that you have enough money in your paycheck? If that is true, great. We identify that value. We target the paycheck and the compensation package as the thing that we want to improve. If you have a different set of values and time with family and less shifts or less stress and still being able to do what you love, but in a way that's reasonable for you is the outcome, we craft a negotiation approach based on those values and what matters to you during this season. And we work to fit that into your plan for long term. Do you want to go part-time for now? Do you want to decrease your hours temporarily? How long and how can we make that happen? That fits within the practice and other people's goals within that practice from an administrative standpoint. And, does that require a move, which is sort of a whole nother discussion. So next, what do you walk away from the negotiation consult with? And I will caveat at the end of this, I will tell you what to do or sort of how to approach this if you're doing your own DIY consult, basing it off of this framework. So at the end of the negotiation consultation with me, you'll have a clear idea of what you want, right? We've defined the target. So if you don't define the target, you will miss it every time. You will sit down with your administrator, you will have a conversation, you will walk away scratching your head like, did it go well? Did they agree? Is it going to get better? Because you haven't really clearly defined the destination. So what's the target? So defining the destination that you want the conversation to go to helps us to direct what approach that you're going to take as a part of that conversation. So you will hang up the phone with a specific personalized plan of how you're going to approach this negotiation. Will it be in person? Is it over email? Should it be on the phone? How do you set up the conversation? How do you schedule it? What words can you use? What approaches can you use? What are you going to specifically ask for? And probably most importantly, how? What approaches are you going to use? What are you going to highlight? We're going to base it on data as much as we can, not feelings. Like, I feel like I've been here 10 years and a new grad just got hired and they're making almost as much as I am. So I feel like I should be making more money. Instead, we're going to highlight the value that you've added to that practice, the patients that you see, the volumes that you do, the revenue that you generate, because administrators, although they are people and they have feelings for sure, they have a bottom line. And it's expensive for you to leave. And we don't necessarily go in guns blazing, threatening to leave. But when you sit down to have a conversation, that's sort of in the back of their mind, it's in the back of your mind. Hey, I'm going to make some requests, not demands. I'm going to see if you can meet these requests. And they sort of know if the answer's no, you're less inclined to stay. It's not necessarily part of the overt conversation, but they know that replacing you is expensive. And the longer that you've been there and the more experience that you have, the more value objectively that you tend to generate for a practice, right? You are a well-oiled machine. You are up and running. You are generating revenue. You are seeing patients. You don't need to be oriented. You are a known entity, and that works in your favor as a part of this conversation. So we talk about how to set up the conversation, how to make the ask, having a plan B if the ask doesn't go well, or other things that you can ask for if plan A is just not on the table budget-wise. And we're going to talk about using specific negotiation strategies that might be effective. Things like specific periods of silence after you make the ask, the phrasing of the ask and identifying what they're struggling with to see if you can create what you're asking for as a solution to a problem that they're having. So we walk through the email, how to phrase it, especially if there's a new offer that came in, how to review the offer, how to propose the most important things that you need at the beginning of that email with clarifying questions about certain things if you have questions later on, and how to format that so you sound like it's not so scattered, like you're like, specifically these are the things I would need to be true. Also, I have a question about health insurance benefits, other things that you can clarify with a new job offer. So formatting of the email, what wording, how to phrase things, how to navigate possible objections. So oftentimes people get on the phone and with me and say, hey, I want to ask for a $20,000 a year raise, but I know there's no way they're going to give it to me. So we unpack sort of why those doubts exist and what has happened in the past, but also how to navigate possible objections. So when they say it's not in the budget, how can you creatively come up with a solution that works for them and their bottom line, but also keeps you happy with a paycheck and a compensation plan and hours that are reasonable and that work for you? And then how to approach questions and concerns from administration, right? So when they say, well, if we do this for you, we'll have to do it for everyone, how can you navigate those questions and concerns and address those as they come up as a part of this conversation? Because every negotiation is a back and forth. You don't go in there making demands. We can do this the easy way. We can do this the hard way. It's not a bank robbery, right? It's a conversation back and forth. And oftentimes it takes several meetings, a little bit of back and forth, because typically the person you're talking to does have to run it up the flagpole, so to speak. They have to talk to other people. They have to review their budget. They have to see if that works for them. And so expect that this is a little bit of a process as you get into it. All right, next up, most common negotiation takeaways.
One of my very favorite things about being a podcaster is crossing paths with other incredible podcasters. If you love this show, especially when I share about my experience with healthcare burnout and recovery, you're going to want to check out the podcast Burnout: What I've Learned So Far, hosted by my friend Meg Letty. Meg is a former CT surgery PA turned advocate for healthcare provider wellness. Turn in to hear how she recovered from burnout and integrated well-being into her life to create a life of dreams, not nightmares. Add Burnout: What I Have Learned So Far with Meg Letty to your podcast queue to start your journey to wellness and healing today.
There are a few common threads that result from a negotiation consult, from these conversations where we're trying to figure out what's next, what's best, what you want to ask for. First and most common is more money. So a compensation package that is more generous, where you get more money for the existing work that you're already doing. Number two is a better quality of life. So we talked about these lifestyle modifications earlier, right? Adjusted hours, flexibility, work from home, admin time, less patients, that kind of thing. Number three, understanding what your practice thinks of you. So if you invest in negotiation consult, if you go and make your pitch and get completely turned down, here's what you know in the end. You understand what your practice thinks of you, how they see your value, and you understand if it's sustainable for you to keep working there. Oftentimes these consults come at a place where we're just like, I don't know if I can keep doing this the way that things have been. And the negotiation is an ask for things to change, right? I can keep working at this pace if you pay me more, or I can't keep working at this pace. Here's a pace that I'm suggesting, and I'd like to make this doing that. And their response tells you what they think of you. It's not always the answer that you want, but it is a definitive answer, and it's data that we can collect and use to move forward, right? What's next for you if they don't value you? If they don't see you as a valuable member of the team who generates revenue, even though you are, is this a place you want to continue to work? Is this environment one that is worth what you are getting compensated for working in it? And the fourth thing, and this is really important, it's mostly for new positions, but it can also apply to when things change, your practice got sold and bought by someone and they're changing contracts, or new office manager, new collaborating physicians join, things change in the partnership, whatever it is, clarifying questions. We ask a lot of questions, especially when we're new, but when things are changing. And sometimes we ask them to the wrong people, or sometimes we ask them to our spouse, and we don't actually get clarity on these things. So, clarifying updates to contracts, identifying what specifics need to be clarified. So sometimes we're given a contract or an offer, or someone comes in and buys a practice and they just say, here it is. And we can go through it and sort of say, here's what I need answered, right? Because sometimes those things are vague and we don't want to make any assumptions about what is being offered, what is being asked of us, how certain things are going to be handled. I think we shy away from asking those clarifying questions because let's say I'm at a job interview, or let's say they give me an offer and I'm reading through it and it says, sick time, vacation time, CME time. I total them up, right? I'm looking at that. I'm comparing that to my current position. I'm thinking about my kids' school break and when their time is off and how. So I want to ask, how do we request vacation? Do we have to request a year to date in front of the dates? How is the seniority? What percentage of vacation requests are approved? When I have a short notice, I have to call out because I'm sick, one of my kids is sick. How is that handled? And their responses will tell you a lot about their practice. If you're sitting in a room with a practice manager and you've gone through an offer and you're reviewing the contract and the specifics and the appendix about days off, and you say, how is it handled if I have a last minute call out if I'm sick? And they say, we really hate it when you do that. It's so inconvenient. The front desk has to call all your patients. We have nowhere to put them. It's on you to see them within the next week, even though your schedule is booked full. You will get a vibe, right? For how you're like, oh, okay. Versus like we say, stay home with your family, deal what you need to deal with. We take care of all of your rescheduling. We have saved whatever. If they have a good plan, great. Number one. Number two, how is the tone of them communicating that plan to you, right? So if they're saying, oh, we get it. It happens. People are human. They got to take care of themselves. We don't want you in here sick getting us sick. We don't want you in here sick getting everyone else sick. How do they ask that? How do they answer that question that you ask? I personally, I was fearful of asking that question because I thought it tipped my hand, right? I thought it made me vulnerable in saying, like, I'm a human. Sometimes I get a cold. Like, I have a cold right now as we're recording this. Like, sometimes I'm a human being. This cold wouldn't keep me home from work, but strep throat would, right? The flu would, pneumonia would. My kid being sick and being young enough that they can't stay home alone, you know, those are all things that would keep me out of work. And I thought that if I asked how they handled sick time, that I was admitting that I might get sick, which if you think about it is ridiculous, but also I would be admitting like I have children, right? I have young children. Everyone knows young children get sick. And so I wouldn't want that place to not hire me because of that. Now, I would love to tell you in a perfect world, no place would ever judge you for your sex, your race, your age, your family situation. They're not supposed to, but it does happen. And my response to that is, wouldn't you rather work somewhere who knows you're a human being who could get sick, who knows you have questions, who knows you're going to take your vacation, who knows you want to know the process for taking your CME, and you want to know how this job fits into your life? I would rather work for a place that is sort of expecting me to ask those questions, to take that time in a reasonable way, that's not abusing it, that's not lying and saying I'm sick when I'm not. I would want to work for a place that would respect me enough as an individual, as a human being, and doesn't just see me as someone who churns and burns, who sees patients, who generates as much billing as possible. I encourage my negotiation consultation clients to ask a lot of questions. And we talk about the approach, like how do we ask these questions in a way of like, first we ask for what we want the most. Compensation, hours, flexibility are typically the top three. And then later Can I clarify this? Can I talk to the HR person? Can I talk to the benefits person? Can I understand what the process is? Because sometimes requesting PTO, you're joining a group, they say, yes, you get all this PTO, and then you realize it goes by seniority. You have to request a year in advance, which means for the next year, you're going to be taking scraps until you can, get on a cycle where you can take your vacation. Those are important questions to know because they affect your quality of life immediately once starting that job. I don't think we ask enough questions. So almost always I'm saying, ask about this, clarify, make sure that you understand in a way that you could explain it to a friend who works in medicine, a friend who doesn't work in medicine, a third grader, right? This is what I'm signing up to do. These are the shifts, these are the hours, this is the PTO, this is the matching of the retirement, all of these details, which are only really front of mind when we're negotiating because they sort of become part of the landscape once we get there. All of those things, we need to clearly understand what they are, how they're administered. Is it hard to use them? Is it easy to use them? Is it hard to access these things? Not a lot of these things are red flags or like game changers if they say like, oh yeah, sick time's great, or no one ever uses sick time because the culture is so bad. Knowing that information helps you to make an informed decision, right? So asking questions, you don't want to be like, hey, I'm the squeaky wheel. This feels, yes, be the squeaky wheel. Ask all of the questions. And another reminder as a part of this negotiation is oftentimes the person that you're working with, the HR person, the recruiter, the hiring manager, whoever it is, they're not the person that you're working side by side with. So I think we get in our own heads about getting a reputation as we're asking questions, as we're clarifying, as we're like, I don't want to annoy them, but I really do want to get this clarified before I say yes. Get it clarified. If you don't know, ask. It's okay to ask. It's reasonable to ask. They're expecting you to ask. Come with lots of questions. And that's oftentimes the outcome of the negotiation consult is me saying, ask more questions. Ask the questions, all the questions. All right, we're going to wrap up here. 4 reasons to book a negotiation consult or to do a DIY one, walking through some of the things that we've talked about. If you are looking for a printable guide, tracybingaman.com/ONE. It's the PA Pay one sheet. It's the one thing that you need to sort of gather all of this information and condense it and have it ready to take to your next conversation. Super great if you do that before a negotiation consult because we got everything in one place. But if you don't, we'll work through it together. So in case you're wondering what reasons to book a negotiation consult, here are 4 really great reasons or situations in which this negotiation consult can be super beneficial. So you got really excited. They've interviewed you and offered you a job, but your initial offer was disappointing. It's not as much money as you were hoping to make. It doesn't really jive with what you were thinking with area and years of experience and specialty, and you're surprised. If an offer is surprising to you and a job is enticing, book a negotiation consult and see if we can bring that offer up. Number 2, you've worked for more than 3 years without a true merit compensation increase. I'm not talking about cost of living, 2% here, but a true, we see you, we see your value, we see what you're adding to the organization. We're going to give you more money because of the value that we see you adding. Number 3, you've got an offer and you don't really want that job. Tempting, but you don't want it. And you want to use that offer as leverage to increase your current compensation. You want to do this in a way that is effective and efficient and preserves your relationship with your current employer. And whether you stay or you go, you want to end up in a better position, right? So you either want to be better compensated where you are or a better compensation, better quality of life job that you like more, right? If you make a move and you want to either compare or contrast, or you want to say, how do I use this offer to get more from my current employer? Or how do I up the offer, the new offer that's coming in so I can make that jump and make it be a forward progression of my career and my compensation and not a lateral move? Number 4, you are doing more work. You're orienting others, you're leading a team, you're starting a program, you're seeing more patients than ever. Read, you are offering more value to the organization than you ever have before, but they aren't paying you more. these other duties as assigned sort of snuck up on you. And you kept saying, yeah, sure. Oh, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. And then you looked up a year, 2 years, 5 years in, and you said, hey, I'm super invested in this practice. I am adding more value. I'm doing more. I am a freaking rock star. You are a freaking rock star, and they're paying you like a roadie. I just made up this analogy, but like if you are really going above and beyond and they are saying like, thank you for joining this committee. Thank you for making sure everyone is doing the things they need to do. Thank you for covering so-and-so's in basket. Thank you for doing, if they are thanking you, or even if you feel like they should be thanking you, but they're not, a negotiation consult can help for you to ask for them to thank you with dollars, right? So if you think about every time that you get a paycheck direct deposited into your account, they are saying thank you. You showed up to work, you did your 2 weeks worth of office hours, you did your 2 weeks worth of shifts, and they're saying thank you. And they're saying thank you by handing you money. When you are going above and beyond, they should be thanking you more. They should be compensating you more for the value, for the investment, for the fact that you care about this group, you care about this practice, you care about the growth, you have continued to show up, you haven't left. All of those things matter. So when you feel like in this situation, maybe a little bit resentful that the market has changed and that a new grad got hired and is making kind of sort of close to what you're making, but you've been there all along, that you're training that new grad, that you are imparting your knowledge and wisdom on there, that you are continuing to be an invested party, that you are continuing to add value to the organization. That is when you need to negotiate and ask for more and ask to be reasonably compensated for the work that you are already doing. Can you tell that this is one of my favorite ones? Because we focus a lot on negotiation when we're getting in the door, and then we sort of keep showing up and keep working. Repeatedly asking for a raise is definitely effective for them to pay you more, right? Sometimes you don't get it on the first try, but what you are doing is saying, hey, I see the value that I'm adding. I want you to pay me more. If they say no, and then again, you ask in 6 months, 9 months, a year later, they're going to keep saying, oh, this person sees their value. And when you see your value, you know you could go and make more elsewhere, but you're invested, right? So what you're saying to them is, I've been invested in you. I want you to be invested in me. And what you're asking for is increasing compensation, time to do some of these things that you're doing, and to really improve the way that you're being paid for the value that you are already adding to an organization. This one, we miss a lot. So we sort of get on the ladder and we wait for an increase of the band of more years, or we sort of are just bumping along like, I'm doing all the things, but no one has said like, hey, Tracy, you're doing great. I want to pay you more. What we're raising our hand is saying, hey, I'm doing great. I want you to pay me more in an effective, respectful, collaborative way, that you're sitting down and saying, hey, I've been here. I've been doing the work. I've been adding the value. I want you to see that, and I want you to thank me in a different way. We'll get off that soapbox, but that is one of my favorite negotiation consults because I want you to get paid what you're worth. I want you to have a paycheck that you are super, super proud of, that you walk out of work and you think, yes, I am being paid for my knowledge, for my expertise, for my ability to take great care of these patients. And I feel great about that. And that is a really good feeling. So the bottom line here, these years that you're working are the highest income earning potential years of your career. Not negotiating means that you're leaving tens of thousands of dollars of income in your employer's pocket. That money belongs in your bank account. You deserve to be thanked generously for the value that you're adding to that group, to that practice, to that department. Those hours belong on your calendar to do with what you please. In order for you to have a sustainable career in healthcare, you need to have both a schedule that works for you during this season that you are in, and also you need to be earning what you're worth. You need to be cashing a paycheck that you feel exceptionally proud of. So, if this episode has compelled you to do a DIY negotiation, head to the show notes, download the PA Pay one sheet, use it to get paid more. If you feel like you want someone who's been there with dozens and dozens of PAs and has helped them to earn more money and ask for what they're worth, number one, head to the show notes. There is a link there to book a call, a negotiation consult. And then we have your call. And we get to do this thing and really get into the weeds of what you're dealing with and what potential obstacles exist and how you want to approach this and what you want to get and where you want to go as a part of your career. And you leave with a strategic, personalized plan to use to approach your next negotiation. And then you use that plan with confidence, even if you're nervous, to increase your pay, to adjust your schedule, and to feel better about yourself and your compensation and your schedule and your career. This is a huge, huge deal. It will make you feel better about going to work. It will make you feel better about the work that you are doing. You are already adding this value. You are already serving these patients so well. This helps you to get paid and have a schedule that works for you in the midst of really being able to do what you love and lean in and take care of patients. So check out the show notes for the link to schedule that negotiation consult. I can't wait to hear from you. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to another episode of The PA is In. Would you do me a favor and send this to a friend who has told you that they are frustrated, that they feel underpaid or underappreciated at work? I want to help spread the word. I want everyone to feel empowered that they can make money that they are proud of as a PA, because I think it will help us to feel more fulfilled and less burned out and more appreciated. It will increase longevity in our careers. It will increase happiness in our lives. It will make us more sustainable as a profession. And I'm just really excited for that, for you and for your community. And I'm really grateful that you are here tuning in and listening. That's all for today. This PA is out. Congratulations. You've just joined an awesome club. By listening to a full episode of The PA is In, you are officially on the Unicorn PA team. Welcome aboard. What most team members do is they subscribe to the podcast because that allows them to automatically get the latest episode of the show. The life of your dreams exists on the other side of taking action. Keep making small shifts and keep getting better. Your life will improve, your career will soar, and you will have the confidence you need to create your own success. I will see you in the next episode. This PA is out.